Waiting for the second package to show up 3 minutes beforehand. That's right. Launching right now. Surprise, 780 pages. She didn't.
That one was humorous, the comprehensive plan one. I was like, okay, yeah, cool, 800 pages.
Yep.
Totally have time to read all of them.
Yeah, my son saw it, freaked out. He's like, how are you gonna read all that? And I said, well, we're gonna skim. We're gonna look for the red parts and then we're gonna go back and look at context and then we're gonna read the red parts again.
We are ready.
I pray that we were paying attention all these other times that we
That's
talked.
right. Yes.
Good.
Good.
All right, I'm gonna call the Wednesday, January 14th, 2026 meeting of the Lacey Planning Commission to order. The first meeting of the year. Hope you all had a great holiday season. I know we did. Roll call, everybody's here, so that's kind of awesome. Thank you. Kirian, would you please read the land acknowledgement?
We, the city of Lacey, are on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian Tribe and Squaxin Island Tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who are absorbed or relocated to other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial, and their role today in taking care of these lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have the responsibility to call attention to the histories of dispossession, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as they have today. We recommend that community members read the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854.
Thank you. Okay, first up is approval of the agenda. I would be looking for a motion.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then looking for a motion on the December 10th minutes.
To approve the December 10th minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Awesome. Okay, any commission members' reports? Judy.
I just wanted to make a comment again about something I observed that was really beautiful in the spirit of Lacey and the holidays. The people that are building at Hogan Bay do so many creative things on that construction site that for Christmas, they painted in one of the true Hilton buildings that's being built, the Santa with reindeer, and they painted them with construction reflection jackets on them. And it was so great that they're just kind of incorporating the joy in the community and the building and the spirit. I just wanted to acknowledge them. I don't know who they are, but they are really creative as well as being talented construction people.
Awesome. Which development did you say?
It's one of the buildings, you know, the Hiltons, the two Hiltons that are being
Yeah.
built. It's the one closest to the ice cream shop.
Awesome.
That's
And
actually
they-
Hogan Bay Residential. It's not the Hilton.
Oh, it's not the Hilton.
I don't
Okay.
think, right over there? I could be wrong.
It's the one closest to that ice cream
The
shop
ice
that you could
shop
see.
right there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Left it.
Yeah. It was great. They put a Christmas tree and the sleigh and then the little reindeer had those construction jackets on.
I can shoot Greg Bailey an email tomorrow or next week to tell him that, because he'll appreciate that too.
Yeah, thanks.
Robert.
Just a reminder that it is the third day of the legislative session, which is a 60-day session, which means it's a short session, which means a lot of things are coming very quickly. So I know our city staff will be watching things that'll affect us potentially, but just know that that could also affect the work that we do. If any new mandates or zoning restrictions or anything else that comes through. So you can always follow ledge.wa.gov as policies come through, and you can vote in favor or against online. You don't have to show up in person, so it does help just to be part of that legislative process. And then today I actually went to the Thurston County Chamber. They did a state of the county, where we had all the state of the community, thank you. And so they had all of the mayors in Thurston County, and then unfortunately Mayor Ryder was sick, but Deputy Mayor Miller was able to come in and just kind of give an update of what they accomplished in 2025 and what they looked forward to in 2026. So it was nice to just be part of kind of seeing what the focus of this community would be for 26.
Thanks. Good to see your hand, Spencer.
Yes, so I'd like to let everybody know that Intercity Transit is going to be expanding their DIY bike repair services. And what that is, if people are not familiar, is that's a program where you bring in your own bicycle and they have volunteer staff that will teach you how to service every aspect of that bicycle and then get that back on the road. They also offer safety training with that. And if you're interested, especially for youth, in receiving a free bicycle, if you go through that program, they will give you the bicycle that you fix from start to finish. So you will work through and learn every aspect of the bicycle, and then you will receive that at the end of the program as a completion reward. And they doubled the amount of hours they're going to be offering. So there's gonna be 4 opportunities a month now going forward.
That is an awesome program.
It is great.
It is awesome.
And they donate the bikes that are left over to local school districts.
Awesome. Anybody else? So I wanna, my report that I was gonna give is, gonna build on what Robert said. So short legislative session, state is absolutely broke. So what that means for us, as you know, the last few years, the legislature has been hyper focused on housing supply and affordable housing. They have no money to spend, so they're really not going to be debating a whole lot of bills that have to do with spending. They do have a lot of bills in the hopper right now that deal with housing, zoning. We're going to get more mandates as to how we deal with zoning and permitting, so it does mean more work for us, probably come this fall and winter. But I will also say it is a short session. It's an election year, so they're committed to getting out on time. There are over 2,800 bills in play right now. So stay tuned. All right, any department report?
Yeah, I have a quick one, but really quick, public comment. I don't believe we had anybody sign up. Oh, you have interested? Okay, yeah.
Oh, that's right. I skipped right over that. Sorry.
It's all right. No, and I know some of you, others I don't. You might have seen me showing up over the last year. My name is Chris Lester. I am a Government Affairs Director for the Thurston County Realtors Association. So I attend looking for housing stuff. I've had lots of conversations with Jennifer over the last couple of years. And so I am here on behalf of the association, wanting to be a helpful person in the community with our association for the city of Lacey. So
Your name?
Chris Lester.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Then, pretty brief, department report, but, since our last meeting, on December 16th, we successfully passed the comprehensive plan.
Yay.
So that's a pretty big deal. Also, a lot of updates to our zoning code, and chapters, and just, it was a unanimous, pass by the council, and they, did spend some time, thanking you guys specifically and all the work that was done. Really recognizing that this was not an easy lift. It turned from what was initially viewed as kind of a minor update to a pretty robust one by the time we got to the end of it. So things was extended there, and then we hit our deadline, so that's all pretty great.
That was awesome work by all of you. Thank you. Okay, we have no public hearing. Our new business tonight is nomination of chair and vice chair of the commission. What I'm going to do is open up nominations for chair. If that person accepts and gets a majority, we're done with that one. If they do not get a majority, then we will reopen. So I'm going to open nominations for chair of the planning commission. Karen?
I nominate Jeff to continue to be our chair for this session.
I accept. So I will ask for all of those in favor with a show of hands, please. Thank you. And now I will open up nominations for vice chair. Spencer?
Nominate Robert Lane.
Oh, I accept.
Okay, Robert, thank you.
Ready?
So Robert Lane has been nominated as vice chair. All of those in favor? Awesome.
Thank you.
That was quick. Thank you. And now we've got the amazing Jennifer to talk about middle housing.
Boy, that's gonna be a big shoe to fill. Amazing. I don't know about that. Well, first of all, a couple of things. Happy New Year, everybody. It's nice to be back together, and unfortunately, you're gonna be seeing me a little bit more in the next couple of months. So we're in this together. I do want to see. You is the best. I'm not good at this. Can you put this on like?
You wanna go full screen?
Yeah.
It's this little pop-up guy down here.
Oh, thank you. Okay, perfect.
There we go.
Okay.
And I can advance too.
Yeah, either way, it's fine. So anyway, just wanted to also thank Hans for being here. So some changes maybe happening and Hans might be here more often as well. So thank you very much. Hans has been pretty much brought up to speed on the middle housing. So any questions, please defer them all to Hans. He's ready to field all of those difficult questions. And you were so short with all of the other items. I thought, well, my turn, middle housing, we're gonna have some, thank you. But we'll talk a little bit more about it this evening. So essentially, we're here tonight to kind of do a recap. So because I've been here fairly recently, it should feel fairly fresh. So I'll try not to spend too much time on the things that we've already talked about, but we will run through things just as a good refresher. And then specifically this evening, we've got at least 2 questions outlined in your staff report that we'd really like to have a discussion around this evening and get your input. So we are here to essentially present our first draft. And I like to consider this truly a rough draft. So keep that in mind as we're going through these things. Everything from typos to, you know, more major concepts. This is a draft. So we do anticipate that much of this draft will continue to evolve in the coming months as we continue to work on our code development. So with that, let's take a look at. All right.
Aaron, should I be able to see what she's broadcasting?
Oh,
I might need you, actually, either Aaron could share or you can join the meeting, whoever's the faster pathway.
You can, why don't you just go ahead and share the screen? I just escaped it. You have the mouse. Oh, go ahead. Hans, do you wanna? Thank you, Judy.
Here,
Thanks.
and
There's.
then we'll go back to full screen.
You said you weren't good at technology.
No, I'm not. You're doing really good in my mind. But
Do you
honest,
wanna
I
see
still have
that?
a problem, so.
It's beautiful. Yes.
Okay,
Okay, good
perfect.
news.
All right, so just breaking this down again, in a few categories. What have we done? Where are we today? And where do we still need to go? So just a reminder, we're in this now almost about 2 years. So it's been on my mind for that long. And I feel like now we're really sort of in that meat and potatoes place of really trying to figure out how we now develop this code with the local context as much as possible while also meeting compliance with the state mandates. So that is, you know, sort of the overall arching goal. So in terms of what have we done, again, we started this process with some grant dollars and we managed to close out that grant successfully, meeting all of the deliverables. We have had quite extensive public engagement. So again, that was a lot of events over the course of at least a year, heard back from the community. And then we did do a survey. I was here with the commission going through all of the survey results. We had great discussions at that time. And so that was a lot of fun to hear back from our community, and so many people responded to the survey, which was pretty encouraging as well. And then our cross-departmental collaboration, right now, what that looks like for within the CED department is a lot of collaboration between myself, long range, management, and then our current planning staff, who, you know, isn't often here at the table, but who are the folks that are they're doing so much work. And so, you know, trying to keep in mind that as we work through this code, they are the users of this code as well as the development community, of course, but really, you know, paying attention to their feedback is just so critical to this process. And then certainly, again, we've been here with Planning Commission with briefings. We've gotten some excellent feedback. And then more recently, we've had some deeper engagement with who we consider stakeholders with middle housing and other housing initiatives as well. And so where are we today? Continuing with that collaboration. That will continue to grow as we we have a little bit of a farther reach into the public works with things there that need to be determined as well in order to have a successful implementation. Today, here we are with the draft code, and then just continuing in the background again to work with the code and refine it. And then where we need to go, at some point, we're hoping these are just, you know, sort of high level here. You notice there's not a hard and fast date on these yet. But Planning Commission public hearing would be really nice to see in late February, which means that before then I'll be back with more updates to the draft. And then draft middle housing code, we would like to see go to city council, of course, with your recommendation, you know, sometime in March, with maybe a final public hearing toward the end of May, and then really trying to stay on target with final adoption of middle housing in early to midsummer. So we're going to do our best to stay on that trajectory. And then taking a look back at, thank you, Hans, taking a look back now at sort of the main sort of statutory requirements, remembering there's the statutory, and then of course we're here tonight to talk about some of those policy choice areas. So when the legislature laid this all out for us, there were a couple of buckets in terms of which jurisdictions would have which requirements. And it was essentially just based on population for the most part. So Lacey is a tier 2 city. There's 1, 2, 3. So as a tier 2 city, what's reflected here is the requirements for our city. And what that looks like there again is that we must allow 2 middle housing units per lot. In all residential zones, or at least those zones that are primarily residential zones. And then we must also allow up to 4 dwelling units per lot. The caveat there is if and when one of those units meets an affordability requirement, and that is set by the state in the RCW at 80% AMI. We must allow 6, we must formally adopt 6 of the 9 types of middle housing. And then this is a real big one. I say this every time, but really important to this and other housing initiatives. States really leaning into the same dimensional and permit standards will apply towards middle housing that apply towards single family. So in other words, we can't create other restriction or other standards that are more restrictive than what we have for single family in the zone where any project is proposed. Administrative design review only. Lacey really does a lot of that now anyways, is my understanding. The state did set some parking maximums. Now, just to clarify these are maximums on what we can require. It doesn't necessarily mean a developer can only do what they have set out. So a developer may propose more parking, and you know that's certainly something that we could work with. So you'll see parking maximums, and then there are a few exemptions that apply for some critical areas and things like that. So then, just as a reminder of those 6 of 9, and this was where we got some great feedback here from the group, from the commission, in addition to our 361 responses. And by and large, the commission supported the feedback from the community, which was, you know, what types of middle housing are you most likely to accept in your neighborhood? And while none were, you know, highly rated. You know, when we looked at the averages, we saw that duplexes, triplexes, townhomes and cottage housing got more of a thumbs up. Interesting thing there, we already allowed those here in Lacey. And I believe since about 2022 or so, you might know a little bit.
Predates my time here, actually.
Oh, okay. So I could be wrong on this, but I feel like about January of 2022 is when we formally adopted duplexes and triplexes into our code. So the 2 in red there, the fourplex and stacked flats, are those additional 2 that the community as well as the commission seem to support more than a few of the other choices. So this is where we're at there. And then looking at really tonight, really wanted to share some stakeholder feedback.
So first of all.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions on what's been presented so far? Judy, I can't see your hand, so if you have anything, just shout.
Thank you, Jeff. No, I'm fine.
All right, sounds good. So one of the stakeholders that is important to talk to, of course, is the Olympia Master Builders Association for many reasons. This gives us an opportunity to hear some feedback from, I would call it more the market rate community. So when I had an opportunity to sit down with Jesse at the Master Builders, we ran through some hypothetical scenarios, looking at, you know, different options for like a tiered density approach for like getting more density for some affordable units, that kind of thing. And so we spent some time really kind of looking at different options and different structures and what might work and how we thought the development community could or would respond. And it was pretty informative. And really, here's, you know, a couple of the high level points from the OMB, where the affordability requirements on projects of this small scale are just simply too difficult to pencil at the end of the day. Now we're talking about affordability requirements on this. It reduces revenue, construction costs remain fixed. And so, you know, at the end of the day, it's just really difficult for most small developers to take on a project that is this small scale. And then if we were to look at, for example, if we go back and we looked at the statutory requirements and we remember that, okay, the state says we must allow 4 units if and when one of those units is affordable. So one way to look at that that helps simplify this for me was in that scenario, that's a 25% public benefit. And that's fairly significant, right? So 4 units with 1 at that affordable rate is, you know, that's a lot for a small project. And then, excuse me, larger scale developments are generally better positioned, right, to absorb these. And so what I heard from Jesse specifically was, you know, probably you'd need upwards of 20 or more units to, you know, start thinking about ways that you could actually make your project pencil with 1 or a couple of affordable units. So that was really good feedback to hear. And then when I had an opportunity to speak with Housing Authority, this was also incredibly informative. So Housing Authority, I make an assumption you're all pretty familiar with the scope of work that the Housing Authority does. Nonprofit, they've done a lot of projects, they've stood up a lot of projects in our area, and they have a very good reputation. The person that I was able to really talk to gave also his perspective from having sort of a financial slash sort of banker background in addition to his extensive housing background. So that was really nice as well, to help gain a better understanding of things that pencil versus things that do not, right? And some of the reasons behind those. So according to the Housing Authority, middle housing projects, again, generally too small in scale to support, you know, things like for nonprofits, layered financing. So oftentimes they are working with what we might even hear as, you know, stacking sources of capital, right? And so with each of those pots of funding come all kinds of requirements, regulations, and long-term compliance, right? And so those things also take staff time and cost money and add to reasons why in the end, small scale projects for nonprofits are gonna be really difficult to achieve any type of affordability. And then really heard this theme across with all of our stakeholders that in order for getting that exchange, the public benefit, i.e. affordable housing units, the incentives would have to be incredibly deep. And so at this point, those aren't things that we have proposed in our current draft, and we will get there. And then lastly, let's see, Homes First, there we go. Homes First is another agency you, I hope have heard of. They are very local here in Washington State. They've been around several decades, at least since maybe like 1989 or 1990. And they are also a nonprofit doing some really good work in the community, really providing lower cost housing rental options for a lot of folks in our community. So I had the opportunity to sit with Homes First as well. And again, you're going to see those similar themes, which would be that affordable middle housing projects at small scale are really financially infeasible unless there's substantial cost offsets, right? So again, incentives. And then another thing that I did hear from Homes First, I may have also heard this from Housing Authority, but it's something that, you know, I don't know that gets talked about a lot. But a lot of these nonprofit funding sources have a policy along with them that, you know, they must charge prevailing wage or meet prevailing wages. And that significantly, while it is an excellent policy to have, it does significantly cut into, you know, the ability of a project to pencil at the end of the day. So the feedback, you know, in one bucket, it felt very similar, to be honest with you. And then staff considerations. So just wanted to provide you a bit with, you know, behind the scenes, what are we sort of talking about and thinking about as we are moving towards making, you know, decisions in our draft and making tweaks along the way. And so when we're looking at the units per lot, I've tended to call this density, but more recently I've sort of learned that it might be better to call it units per lot. So I'm going to try to make that shift. So of course, the first thing that comes to mind is we know we have to comply with mandates, right? So that's the first thing. How do we comply with mandates, whether we want to do them or not? And then how do we, this to me is really really at the crux of, you know, how we conduct our work. And that is developing regulations that are practical to implement in practice. And that really pulls us back to when I mentioned our current planning team. They've just been very instrumental in getting us to where we are, and they'll continue to support this work as we move along. And they need a code that they can work with. They need a code that they can implement. I will say just a little bit here that the housing initiatives, the middle housing, the ADUs, but particularly the middle housing, it's complicated. And you know, we're not the only jurisdiction that sits back and goes, you know, wow, they handed us a big problem to solve. So it's complicated and I think we're gonna get there. I've had moments where I just feel like, the weight of the housing is on my shoulders, but it's not true. It's all of us collectively getting to work on this. So I'm grateful for that. And then providing options for the development community. So by authorizing middle housing as kind of an overlay, although that's not the classic overlay that we might think of. You can jump in anytime too, if you have any corrections, because I feel like you and I talked about the overlay and I'm probably misusing it right now. And retaining the underlying zoning as an alternative development option. So in other words, middle housing isn't intended to be a new mandate across the board. This is providing another option. So folks could continue to do projects, by right projects in their zone as our code is already written, or if they want to go the middle housing route, that will be an option as well. So again, options. And then optional affordability-based pathway for additional units. This is something that we are really hoping to have a great conversation this evening about as well. But as we were working through our code, what we wanted to do here was at least preserve future flexibility, right? Because when we're writing code, it's not just for today, but we're really trying to be forward thinking about code and knowing how quickly things change. And so where you can, create a code that, in the future, maybe you hope that it won't have to be amended as, often as often as it could have to be, right? So, and then also we, have felt all along that it's also been just really important to be informed by our stakeholders, by our planning commission, and so forth, and look at this as a collective effort. And so that brings us really to our staff recommendation that we have brought to you this evening and want to talk about, which is these two sort of bullet points here. So the staff recommendation at this point with middle housing is that we cap units per lot. So again, we're talking about units per lot, not units per acre. So that we propose a cap of 4 dwelling units per lot. And that would be consistent with the state minimum requirements and would bring us into compliance. And then the second bullet point that I was just speaking about was this concept of including an optional pathway for affordability based projects, right? So if a developer truly wanted to do an affordable project in our community, what we'd like to say is we'd like to reserve that as an option, with the caveat that every unit would have some sort of affordability that is met, some affordability requirement there. So again, where the state requires that with 4 units, 1 must be affordable, we'd like to discuss, this opportunity to allow a few more units, however, have some deeper affordability requirements associated with that. So today, that's where we have landed with the draft that we've presented you. And I think with that, unless Hans, you have anything else you want to add, I'd really just like to open it up for discussion, thoughts from you guys, and certainly we are here to answer questions in better detail as well.
I'm gonna start with Judy, but first, I want to remind everybody that legislative requirement was that this be done by the end of 2025. So now we're running overtime, and that's why we're on the fast track for this. So Judy, do you have anything?
Well, my reaction to that would be that I think it's a fair approach, because I think there are people that wouldn't mind the opportunity to get into homeownership, even if it's a smaller footprint than what may be standard in other housing options, but to be able to get in the door with a starter home, or however long that is their home. And I don't think that's a bad scenario at all.
I'm gonna go counterclockwise, starting with Jennifer.
Seems pragmatic and flexible. Looks great. Thanks.
I have a strange question. Where did the numbering scheme come from? Because I'm looking at 1606 344 fourplex, 1606 498 middle housing, 698 stacked flats. So like, if we're defining the types of housing, shouldn't they be sequential with each other, or am I missing something that's greater in the chapter?
I think you're looking at our broader definitions chapter, so they're going alphabetically, so.
Gotcha. Okay,
They're
that's
just
what I
not
was
being-
thinking.
I was just about to say, can you clarify the question? I apologize.
So.
I apologize. Those little dot, just, there's a whole bunch in
Yeah.
between each of those little.
I was just wondering
I
why.
just didn't want you guys to have to scroll to
Appreciate it.
so much.
Save
So
it
good-
paper.
Yeah, good,
That's
good
the
question. on
goal
that.
of this, but
Thanks,
yeah,
guys.
they are surrounded by a lot more definitions.
Tanya,
I think this is a great compromise. I think that, like Jennifer said, it's a great way for people to get into home ownership that wouldn't otherwise not have the availability.
Kieran?
Yeah, two questions for clarification. I'm just a little bit confused. If we establish a maximum of 4, how could we have up to 6? And the other one was, people are saying this would be a great pathway for ownership, but would this ensure that these are homes for sale, or could these also be rentals?
So both are excellent questions. Let me start with the latter, and then we'll come back to the question on density, units per lot. So we have talked prior about something called the unit lot subdivision. That is something on the horizon, and the city of Lacey will have to implement that as well, but not until 2027. So we have just a little bit more time to work with that. But what that does is it will provide a pathway. It will be located in our subdivision chapter, and it will follow along with certain subdivision regulations and so forth. But what that will do is it will create a model for ownership where each unit, it's a little different from a condo model, because each unit would actually own the land underneath it. Now, it doesn't work for a stacked flat, and that is because there's not land underneath each unit. A stacked flat could, in theory, use a condo model if they wanted to divide that out and sell each unit. But in terms of, dividing out, say, an ADU to be sold, or, a duplex or triplex, dividing each unit to be sold, that will be the pathway coming very soon. So when we first launch this, it won't be an option right away, but it will be coming. So I hope that answers your question, that initially rentals, and then in the very near future, the opportunity for folks to, make that decision if they want to do some kind of a subdivision and sell, or a division, not a subdivision, but a division and sell. And then back to your question about, if we cap this at 4, how can we allow 6? And that's kind of part of why we're here tonight. This would be a policy decision for us. And really, please feel free to jump in on this,
Yeah, I think, the primary distinction between them is that when you move up to 6, we're talking about all of them being required to be affordable at that point.
correct.
So as it stands right now in our current code today, you can build up to 3 units on a lot. The state legislation is dictating that now we have to allow up to 4, provided one of those 4 is affordable. And then they also provide additional optional guidance on the ability to increase that number further, provided there are additional affordability requirements on it. So we kind of have one that is more or less set for us by the state, and then one that's more or less recommended by the state. And so that's kind of the discussion about where do we want to land on those 2.
Yeah, exactly. And, we could, part of the question maybe is 4 comfortable, right? I think from staff's perspective at this point, just to share, doing 4, again, it reaches compliance for us. It also gives us an opportunity to kind of wait and see, right? Watch the market, see how developers are responding to these changes in our code, if at all, right? Just for fun or to, back pocket sort of knowledge, we did poll, just was curious about, how many ADUs and duplexes or triplexes have been built. And since 2022, it's not a whole lot in Lacey. It is getting utilized, the ADUs particularly, but only a handful of duplexes. And it looks to me like around 10 or so ADUs from what I'm looking at. So anyway, just an indication of how quickly are developers already taking advantage of our current allowance for duplex and triplex. Not a whole lot yet. So again, we just feel like, is there an advantage to, right away jumping in and saying, let's allow 6 homes per lot. And so as staff, as we've done the research and the work, we don't see where there's a huge advantage to doing that right away. And again, as conditions change, maybe 5 years down the road, things could look a lot different, and then that might be a point in time to enter the conversation again and see where some changes might be warranted.
Robert?
Clarifying question. So I know we talked about that they'll be able to divide a lot in the future for individual ADUs, but it would still be part of the same lot in the sense of the number would still be 4 for that parcel of land, or like, right, if it's subdivided, you wouldn't be able to then like get more units into a smaller space, right?
Correct.
Just
Yes,
making
that's
sure
an
I
excellent
understand.
Excellent clarifying question,
Oh my
yes.
God, that's a really tiny space for a lot of units if that's the case.
So
Yeah.
fractal.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. And then, I think I just wanna say out loud that just because like we write this policy, it doesn't mean that it'll be effective, right? So at the end of the day, like what you all have been kind of talking with market research and our community partners is that it's not currently an affordable option, but it allows us to set the parameters. So it is kind of like if they build it, if we build it, they will come kind of scenario. If we can set the parameters of trying to make it easier, but that doesn't necessarily fix housing if people aren't going to opt into it. So it's just setting the tone. It's not necessarily mandating. We're not gonna force anyone to do anything. It's just allowing them an option that seems to be in this current state, maybe will be underutilized, given the market
I think
conditions.
that is very well said,
Okay.
very well said. Just an option. And I don't know what you all have seen in your careers. Hans, maybe you've seen this, but it could be that somebody comes along at some point that has, money and no place to put it and just wants to provide a bunch of affordable homes. And it would be fantastic, right? But, is there harm in at least having some structure there, some language that indicates that we're gonna work with you to provide a pathway to do that? So I think just again, allowing options. Now, we don't have to go, into the deep weeds with this, but just to say, the draft that you've probably spent a little bit of time looking at, certainly we have a lot more to do, right, around sort of the language there. Some questions around whether, it needs to be a bit more prescriptive. We're not quite there yet. And so this is part of when I come back, I'll have more updates and more information to share with you. If we continue pursuing that. So after tonight, we're hopeful to know thumbs up, we're going in the right direction, or back to the drawing board, let's, try again.
So it sounds like there's consensus here to support this. I think it's great, but just some background.
Spencer has one question.
Yeah,
if you have a second.
Go.
First of all, the point about the nonprofits and their funding sources is spot on, because who they get money from, they have their own specifications for how that money must be spent. And it's a must be spent. It's not an option. And so if like Homes First wants to do a project and they've got money from 5 different sources, they've got 5 different sources that they have to account to show that they're spending that money according to the way that source wanted it spent. The other thing is, just from experience, you know, affordable housing has been in conversation forever. And, you know, after people saw that the government housing projects from the 50s and 60s failed, which they would because they were designed very, very poorly. I mean, the whole concept was designed poorly, not just the project. You know, finally, the federal government created the IRS Section 42 housing. You know, what that did is provided a developer, if they develop an apartment complex, and there's a bunch of them here in the county, College Glen out on Pacific Avenue is a good example of one. And what that did is it provided the developer over the course of 10 years through their tax returns would get all of their construction costs back in exchange for providing 30 years, contractually 30 years of affordable housing. And that was a slow take up until developers realized it's money and volume, right? Typically, what you find is an owner would need to own 10 of these complexes to make it pencil out for them over time. So I have an idea with affordable housing, we're probably going down that path, but we're not there yet. But I think this is a good first step. Spencer?
Yeah, clarifying question here. My understanding is that these are subject to the same regulations as any residential zoning. Do any of these units in there have to have specific amenities such as kitchen, bathroom, similar to the co-living we were talking about? Is there any minimum requirements, or is it just straight what's in the residential requirement?
Yeah, also a good question. And it is the latter. You know, and so we'd be looking at probably, I don't know if we're comparing this to the definition of a unit, but it has to be fully livable. So
Self-sustained.
So self-sustained.
Yeah.
Yep, fully livable. You know, so not at all like the co-living that we have been talking about recently.
All right, so I'm gonna look for thumbs up from everybody if this is a direction we want them to continue to pursue. Looks like we're there.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. Well, you know, we appreciate you all very, very much. It's a pleasure. Every meeting is a pleasure. And so we are truly looking forward to coming back as we have more updates to this draft. So stay tuned. Additionally, you will be seeing me at, I believe, you guys meet every week.
Every other.
Every other week. So I believe I'm up on the next meeting as well. But we'll be shifting gears at that meeting and talking about ADUs. The last time we were here, I believe we did say we'd like to bring you each of these housing initiatives separately so that we could spend ample time or whatever time is needed on each of them. So we're gonna be bouncing around just a little bit, but hang in there with us and we're gonna get there.
Well, I appreciate it. And more technically, we meet on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday.
Thank you.
So if there's a 5th Wednesday, it'll be 3 weeks between.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
right.
Question from my side.
Yes,
Jennifer, when you come back to talk about ADUs, can you bring pictures of ones that have been approved and installed as real examples we can see?
Absolutely,
great idea.
yeah,
Visuals are always helpful.
absolutely.
We have that packet already, we can do.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Well, you are very welcome. Thank you, yeah,
Yeah.
and thanks
this
for
is
too.
great.
I guess this was a rather quick meeting this evening. So
Nobody,
everybody gets their life back.
nobody is gonna complain about a meeting ending early, I'll tell you that. So I have one more thing, and that is just to let y'all know, interviews for new commission members are tentatively set for the week of the 26th. So hopefully soon we'll be fully stocked again.
They were looking for what, like,
Two.
5 applicants, so to have a pool.
I think we have 5
Five
applicants.
applicants.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's great.
I'm gonna call the meeting adjourned. Thank you all, everybody.
I thought I was gonna be here till 30.
Good night.
Oh, that was last year.
Resolution, get out a little bit early.
You jumped the gun because I was about to